Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our virtual program with Larry Maurice, our cowboy poet. Larry, go ahead and take it away.
Well, thank you, Amanda. Appreciate that very, very much. That's the musical interlude to the program. Good evening. Welcome, 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 welcome. I want to thank all the folks from the Washoe County Library System and Amanda Mongolo and her staff for putting this program together. We're going to do a little cowboy poetry for you tonight. For those of you who are uninitiated in cowboy poetry, we will try to explain a little bit about the history of it, where it comes from. At the end of the program, we'll save a lot of time for questions and answers, and well, questions. Hopefully, we'll have an answer for you somewhere along the line. But we'll just kick the can over and see where this goes. A soft bedroll and a warm campfire and a hot cup of coffee. These are some of life's little pleasures out here in the cow camp. Full banded on the picket line and watching the first star shine can sure open the book on this amazing thing called Cowboy. Old Cookie playing his mouth harp, soft and low. Maybe Dave playing that trail-weary banjo. Little things, but so easy to enjoy. Crickets and croaking and night birds calling. The sound of the stream rushing by. Horses and cattle and a tune-crackling fire. All wrapped in a sparkle-eyed sky. History and dreams and old plans and new schemes dance in the firelight's rhyme. And this cow camp symphony stirs old memories of trails through the shadows of time. So come along with me on a journey to a time not so long ago when the land was new and the West was wild, in the time of the buffalo. We'll ride Remington's hammer-headed ponies and smell the wood smoke in the air. We'll chase some cattle and talk of saddles and wake the ghosts still living there. Come along. Slack your cinch and stoke the fire and grab a chunk of sky. We'll make you laugh or shed a tear or maybe wonder why. Come along. Come along with me on a journey. We'll let the sunset lead the way. Back to the spirit and the lore and the legacy of the great American cowboy. Come along. Let's go back to yesterday. I signed on for the pleasure and I stayed through the pain of hackamores and heartaches and the vaqueros' rain. But my fever has broken, my temperature changed. I can't find the justice in the rich man's game. So hold on, to leather and hold. Hold on, ears and smoke. I rode through Nevada and I worked in the eye of the storm. Knew the dueños and vaqueros, and I've been on my own too darn long. And horses and cattle and old bones that rattle and long lopes and loose loops. What a heck of a ride. So hold on to patience and pride. Hold on, old vaqueros, for the setup and slide. I've seen the land through the dust of blown out dreams. I've seen the sparkle of God's eye in a cold mountain stream. Now I'm turning my back to the life that I know. Soft breezes are calling where memories flow. And some kid will replace me. It's natural and it's right. Younger and quicker and full of wonder and fight. And I'll nod as he rides past and hope that he learns that out here, a man only holds what he earns. So hold on to mirrors and smoke. Hold on to leather and hope. There are far fewer cowboys today on the land riding no more cattle than folks understand. And they have done the job better than anyone can. Quem sabe, paisano? Was it part of the plan? And there's them that would say that this life is a joke, but them's the ones that can always be fooled by the mirrors and smoke. So hold on to leather and hope. Hold on to mirrors and smoke. Woo! So a little bit of singing and a little bit of poetry. So most of the cowboy songs that you know, are poems are songs you know, like, oh, Red River Valley and Home on the Range and that sort of thing. Those were all poems before they were ever brought into song. And because cowboy poetry is rhyming poetry. How now, brown cow. And so it lends itself very, very, very easily to a C, D, and a G chord on a guitar or whatever. Most of the singing at the campfires was done a cappella. There weren't, Hollywood gave us the West that never was. There really were no stringed instruments on the cow camps. Okay, you think about it. You break a string on a guitar, you're out in the middle of the Kansas plains, you're a long way between cats before you could get that thing fixed. So the singing was done a cappella, just like it is today at modern campfires. Okay, harmonicas were prevalent, jaws, harps, that sort of thing. But so the poetry was written and recited over and over again, like the game telephone, and it passed on and passed on and passed on and got changed and that sort of stuff. But eventually, once it got put to music, that solidified it. We remember those songs very, very well. But cowboys are still writing cowboy poetry, so rhyming poetry. And it's story poetry. It has a beginning and a middle and an end. It's easy to understand. It's got a nice rhythm to it. It's usually somewhat moralistic and self-effacing. And so it's been around for a long, long time. It was the hip hop of the day. That's what it was. And it was easy to do. And I've been writing cowboy poetry since I was about 6, 7, 8, 10 years old, and didn't know it was cowboy poetry. Been reciting it for a long, long time. Someone once said at a campfire after I'd done a poem, and they said, "Hey, that's cowboy poetry." And I said, "Oh, really? I didn't even know that." Okay, we just called it Western verse. So if you go to the library and you look prior to 1985 and look for a book of cowboy poetry, you won't find one. Okay, the word cowboy poetry came about in 1985 with the Elko Cowboy Poetry Gathering. That solidified the words cowboy poetry. Prior to that, it was all called Western verse. And I love doing Western verse. Here's a poem that I did quite a few years ago, and it's been around for a long time. It's come back to me in from some pretty nice places that people like it, and I hope you like it. It's called Cowboy's Hands. Now, cowboys' hands have been everywhere, from the Appalachians to Alaska's lair. To the soft-hearted, they must look a sight, but they didn't get that way overnight. No, they started out like yours and mine, clean and soft and no mark of time. But as the years went by, they'd start to show where they've been and what they know. You can tell a lot about a cowboy and where he's been by looking at his hands and the story within. For each wrinkle and crack was learned somewhere. The story's plain if you just look there. He's got a small scar on his left-hand thumb. He was just a kid and did something dumb. He thought he could feed those chickens faster through that old leaf blower. A disaster. He's got a permanent rope burn on his right-hand palm. He roped that old pig and disobeyed his mom, and the pig hit a high lope through the front door, and he tried to hang on, but how he couldn't hold on. Got no fingerprint on the first finger of his left hand. He was at his first branding and didn't know where to stand, and he tripped on a catch rope and trying to hang on and hit that hot iron, and that print's still gone. Now, his first job for real pay was hoping to win her feet, and he drove that old Pertran team at minus 30 degrees. Frostbit fingers, skin white as a ghost. Losing them fingernails is what hurt the most. Horse wrangling in Montana, and he rode the rough string, and he broke that right hand when that mare took to wing, and Cookie said it, but it never healed just right. He remembered again on a damp, rainy night. The third finger of his left hand used to Used to hold a gold wedding band, but the cowboy life and schoolmarm ways, that was back in his younger days. From rawhide and sweat and saddle soap and chew, his hands kept changing by the things that he'd do. Following the herds from north to south, the hot desert sun burning hands and mouth. Lost a finger on that California spread. Hey, no hard and fast here. Take your dallies, they said. Big cabin, big sunsets, long ropes, and good mounts. And he stayed a long time. It's the staying that counts. And there in that line shack all alone, he ripped that little one clean down to the bone. And he sewed it together with a needle and thread. I couldn't have done no better, the doctor said. You see, a cowboy's hands don't get much rest. It's like he's always putting them to a test, whether it's chopping ice or mending fence or shoeing a mule. Sometimes there is only good working tool. Callus is built from ropes and leather over this country in all kinds of weather. Each of the seasons leaving their mark on hands rough and aged, like sequoia tree bark. But rough hands can turn to velvet somehow, like when they're pulling a newborn calf from an old mama cow. And no gentler hand has ever been the source of a rub on the neck to a good working horse. So scratched and slivered and scarred and hard, you think about how they got that way, Bart, from honest hard work, and pain and strife. So the next time you shake a cowboy's hand, remember, you're holding his life. Woo! Cowboy's name. I've been a fan of what we call classic cowboy poets. They didn't know they were classic cowboy poets. They were just writing cowboy poetry. But going back to 1880s, 1870s, 1890s, all the way up through, one of my favorite cowboy poets is a gentleman named Bruce Cascade. He's kind of the patron saint of cowboy poetry for a lot of people. He was a very prolific writer, wrote probably over 900 poems. And every time I go to write a poem or think of a story, I'll go and flip through my collection of his poems and I'll go, oh, Bruce already did it better than I could, and I think I'll just go with that one. And I was worked on a lot of dude ranches and that sort of thing over the years, and people would always ask you, well, how do I ride this horse? And Granddad said if you keep your leg on either side and the mind in the middle, you're going to work out okay. But Bruce had a great poem about it, and I really liked it. It's called How a Cowpuncher Rode. Now, I've often been asked by the people I know to tell them just how a cowpuncher rode. See, them cowboys, they didn't all ride just the same. Oh, no, they rode almost every old style you could name. Of course, most of the hands that were working around would ride with long stirrups and straight up and down. But some rode with a medium, some rode with them short. In fact, there were stirrups and lengths of all sorts. I knew this one fellow who quarreled with his brother because he rode with one stirrup shorter than the other. Now, most kept their feet quiet, but some fidgety cuss kept kicking his feet and making a fuss. Some shoved their legs forward and held their heels low. Others held their leg back like and turned down their toe. There was them that sat straight and others that humped till they sit on their horse in a kind of a lump. There was them that would ride close to their seat. Others was half of the time on their feet. Some bogged on the cantle and sat away back. Others would jig like they rode on a track. There was them that would ride with their elbows down, close to their sides, and others again who would let them spread wide. And then there were them that would flap them so high you would think maybe so they were trying to fly. There was them that would ride with a hand on the horn. Some looked plumb contented, others forlorn. There was some, for some reason I could never explain, would always twirl a piece of their rope or the end of a rein. There were some of them fellas actually set off to the side. You know, I don't rightly know how a cowboy did ride. When you figured it out, there's only one guess. They rode like they thought they could do it the best. Woo! Bruce Cascade. Now, you see me carrying these ropes around all the time. Around our outfit, rope and rack start with the same letter. But this is one of the tools of the cowboy. It's just like a plumber has wrenches and we got ropes. Yeah. But there's a lot of cowboy vernacular out there, and I'm sure this is probably going to generate some questions on this. But for instance, if you say to a cowboy, or say to a gal, you say, or you talk to somebody about getting hitched, what does that mean? Huh? It means getting married, right? Mm-mm. Not to a cowboy. You say getting hitched to a cowboy, he'll go, what kind? Squaw hitch, double diamond, triple diamond, 2 wraps and a hooey, a box hitch, trucker hitch, what? See, it's different. See, cowboys have got a way of hitching things together. Like if they wanted to, okay, they could hitch a wild horse up to a feather. The cowboy invented soap on a rope. He was the first one to put patents to some leather. See, loose ends are a thing that drives a cowboy plumb crazy. Did someone screw this up on purpose, or were they just plain lazy? Swivels and snaps and buckles and flaps, use it all and tie it down tight. God forbid that the things that he did would leave a loose end in sight. Now check out his gear. It becomes pretty clear that this cowboy is into some kind of tie-downography. He's got an MBA in stack it this way and a minor in strap and tarpology. Well, check out his pants. You can see at a glance he's got buttons to close up his fly, a hubcap belt buckle, and suspenders for chuckles. Triple insurance so his breeches stay high. Pearl snaps on his shirt to keep out the dirt, and a wild rag tied up like some fancy French sailor, and down on his feet, conchoed spur straps so neat, with a wire heel chain from some old baler. Well, check out his saddle. It's ready for battle. He could tie down a flea or a toilet. I just threw that in there for trash. I was like, he's got saddle strings to tie everything from a slicker to a bottle cap ready for market. A stampede string to a silver ring and a self-adjusting horsehair headband and big leather cuffs and brad studs and stuff. Oh, it fit nicely into his plan. Yeah. On cheeks, there ain't nothing like a rolled leather button. He hides the rivets with a concho or two, and then a piece of strap leather to keep them together, and then a neat little pocket for string and thread and glue. It is downright mesmerizing to watch him analyzing just how things is to be hitched. But I'll warn you, don't go getting involved, because you will never resolve this thing that has cowboys bewitched. Some say it's an affliction, others an addiction. Most just try hard to cope. But don't get in his way, because you probably will stay and help him untangle his rope. Getting hitched. But so I've been very, very fortunate to make my living for most of my adult life, horseback, around horses, around cowboys, and that sort of thing. And but in the wintertime, I do take a little break from that, and I'm a ski instructor. So, but I'm outside most of the time, pretty happy. And with my wife and I, we raised some pretty good horses and some nice dogs, and we've got a pretty good life. But a lot of times when I was working for pack outfits, taking people in the backcountry, and they'd go, Larry, what are you doing, man? You know, so, you know, my tag was, my job is always better than your vacation. But I wrote this little poem for a guy once, just so maybe he'd understand, and it really helped me. It's called Reasons. Why do we do what we do? And why is it done by so few? Well, the answer is vague, but maybe today I can explain it to you. We do it for the fun, and to watch the rising sun, and to see the sparrow and the hawk on high at play, and to watch the mountains rise from inside a darkened sky, and to feel the muscle of the earth at break of day. Great gray granite peaks, the place where your own spirit speaks, in a language that you interpret as you choose. And we do it because we know that no matter how it goes, life is not about the goods you win or lose. See, we're never at our best when we're setting down to rest like those who only sit and plan, but we're most at ease when we're part of the breeze, pitting ourselves and our stock against the land. In our life, the job is never done. We always need another sun. It's never over. It's just handled for the moment. And we thrive on life's hard rules, and we are often spoke as fools. but in the hardest job done well, there is contentment. And most of us take great pride in the work and in the ride and in the smugness of being where it is we want to be. And I hope that all of you need and love the work you do. And if not, remember, it's never too late to set the cowboy in you free. Woo! All right, so I knew I better throw this poem in because I know a lot of you who are out there want to hear this again and if you haven't heard it before. So we're talking about nicknames and that sort of thing, and I worked on a ranch once. My name was Get Wood for a long time, and so if a guy was tall and skinny, you'd call him Slim or whatever. Well, this guy's name was, this is a poem written by S. Omar Barker. This guy's name was Pert Near Perkins. Now what that means is pert near. It's pert near. It's close, almost, no cigar, pert near. Got it? All right? Okay. Well, they called him Pert Near Perkins, for unless that booger lied, he had pert near done most everything that he had ever tried. He'd pert near been a preacher. He'd pert near roped a bear. He'd met up with Comanches once, and pert near lost his hair. He'd pert near wed an heiress that had money by the keg. He'd pert near had the measles once. He pert near broke his leg. He'd pert near been a trail boss, and according to his claim, he had pert near shot Bill Hickok, which had pert near brought him fame. Now, and he'd pert near rode some Broncos on which no one else had stuck. In fact, he was the guy who had pert near drowned a duck. I'd pay to see that. Now, most of the boys at the Lazy SB spread took his talking with a grin and let him fight his head. But one named Tom McGinnis sort of give it to him rough. He said, "Part, you're working for an outfit now where pert near ain't enough. We ties our last ropes to our horn, and what we catch, we hold. And pert near is one alibi we never do unfold. In fact, no words I've ever heard. Those two lousy little words, pert near." Now, that's the way old Tom McGinnis just laid it on the line. And like a heap of preaching, well, it sounded mighty fine, but one day Tom McGinnis was out riding all alone, and he lamed his horse, and he had to borrow up his neighbor Nestor's roan to ride back to the ranch on. Well, out along the way, the farmers held him up, and there was HELL to pay. Now, Tom claimed he had not stolen that horse. He had just borrowed it to ride. But them Nestors hated cowboys, and they told him that he lied. And they cussed him for a horse thief, and they had flat caught him with the goods. And they set right out to hang him in a nearby patch of woods. Now, they had old Tom surrounded, and their guns were drawn to shoot. And Tom McGinnis, pert near know, he'd heard his last owl hoot. They put that rope around his neck and throwed it up over a limb, and Tom McGinnis, pert near know, this was the end of him. But suddenly a shot rang out from somewhere up on the hill, and then Nestor dropped that rope and scattered like Nestor dropped the will, and bullets get to whistling, and old Tom's heart filled up with hope to see old Pert Near Perkins come a-riding at a lope. "Well, looks like I got here just in time," old Pert Near Perkins said, "to see them fellers hang you." Tom's face got kind of red. He said, "Well, Bernie had me strong. You're looking at a cowboy here. Bernie just been hung. And one who's changed his mind for no words I've ever heard said sound quite so sweet as pert near, when a man's been pert near dead." Woo! Oh, isn't that fun? All right. This last poem we're going to do for you here, this kind of sums up a lot of stuff. I wrote this quite a few years ago as a commission from Texas Trailhand Society. It was nice at that time in California Cowboy. They asked to write a poem about Texas, but that legacy is there for a long time, and most of us know Cowboy from the movies and that portion of it from the 1860s to about the 1890s. So He was born from the winds of war to a land of hoof and hair and bone, of heat and snow and sand. He didn't know that he was a hero. He was just a stockman on the land. From just south of the Rio Rojo and north of the Rio Grande, he left his mark for all the world to see. This cowboy, this hombre, muy fuerte. For one half his life was Spanish, and his other part Texican. His mother's mother was Cherokee, his great-granddad Mexican. Born to live in the South, grass rope lawns on his family tree. He sent 13 million head of longhorn cattle to feed the East. 2,000 miles of dust, sweat, blood, and misery. And he learned to hold and move the beast. 39 rivers to cross, some dark, some wide, some deep, some just a ribbon in the dust. And some many a soul would keep. And some to make a man of him, and some to quench a thirst, some to bring him back to God, and some a road to hell or worst. Some to bring him pleasure, and some to bring him pain. Some to set his soul at rest, some to drive his heart insane. Beef, free for the taking, for the man with greatness in his eye. No milk-toast, lily-livered son of this shepherd could for this job need apply. Longhorn cattle, tough, wild, proud, cut you, kill you, maim you, maul you like a hive of 1,200-pound yellow jackets, with not one stinger, but two. Moving on to Kansas City, Dodge, Abilene, he tied knots in the devil's tail. The Bozeman, the Chisholm, and the Goodnight Loving Trail. And where he rode, the West was one. It never occurred to him to fail. He's carried on for 40 years, men and cattle, a living, working machine. But the Homestead Act and the Iron Horse brought a sunrise to his cowboy dream. The wire, the hoe, and the post hole digger closed the open range. And this cowboy born of the winds of war was never the same again. So hold tight, grab leather to stay where we need to be, where the spirit and the lore and the legacy of the great American cowboy has been left for safekeeping in the hearts of you and me. So the fires burn to ashes, coffee's almost gone. Talked a little about the poetry, a little about the history and the song. So until we meet again, my friends, in the warmth of the campfire glow, may you ride a good horse, may you make a good friend. May all your trips be easy and slow. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Larry, for that. I don't know about everyone else, but it makes me want to book a hotel in Elko for the next Cowboy Poetry Festival. Thank you so much. If there are any questions, you guys can leave them in Facebook chat or in chat on Zoom. There's just a few comments for you, Larry. People saying you're looking good.
I wanted to make a shout out to Lindsay Nolan, because without her, you and I wouldn't be doing this right now. So thank you, Lindsay. I'm glad you're out there. I'm glad you had a chance to hear that.
That is so true. Lindsay was my colleague who found Larry on the ski slope. So that's how this all came to be. So yeah, Larry, a lot of comments, looking good. People are saying, glad to hear you. Someone did ask, so maybe we can ask for an encore, for you to do Silver Screen Heroes.
Oh boy, yeah, I sure will. Yeah. Yeah, you know, cowboy poets usually get asked to leave by now, so if somebody has a request, usually that's pretty good. But that poem has been around for a long. I wrote that poem because of the Lone Pine Film Festival, which I've been involved with for 30 years. More movies, television shows, and commercials have been filmed in Lone Pine, California than any other single outdoor location in the world. And every year in October, they have a film festival, and I wrote this after the first film festival. And so if you'd like, I'll do it for you. Called Silver Screen Heroes. Growing up on New England farms, the West came alive for me Saturday mornings on the silver screen. Front row center is where I'd be. Saturday mornings at the Colonial Theater with Hoppy and Roy and Gene. 2 big westerns for 30 cents, 8 cartoons, and flat top ice cream. My youth was spent in darkened bliss, and a new world came suddenly alive. And those old movies made the West exist, and they stirred me deep inside. Joel McCrea and Randolph Scott, Ride the High Country, Shane, Red River, The Searchers. This was heaven for me. My dad died when I was young, and my mom worked hard to keep us fed, and it was my cowboy heroes that gave me values by what they did and what they said. Good guys in big white hats taught me right from wrong. You tip your hat to the ladies, and when it hurts, be strong. The Duke, Wild Bill and Jingles, they got me through some pretty tough times. And Gabby always made me laugh. They were all pals of mine. Cheyenne and Sugarfoot helped show me the way. Do what you know is right. And when it's just you, turn the other cheek. But when it hurts others, fight. Where are they today, these heroes of mine who taught these lessons to me? Brave and strong and always right on the silver screen on my TV. You see, with the Lone Ranger and Tonto and Hoppy and Topper, you always knew right from wrong. And there sure wasn't much that Roy and Dale couldn't fix with bullet and trigger and a saw. With my fancy stitched shirt and my cardboard cowboy hat, I'd tackle the Black Hat gang on my knotty pine steed. I'd ride for the past to head 'em off if only I can. With my shooting iron strapped on tight and whistling a tune, my youth was spent taming the West. And now when I think back on those times now again, it is the cowboys I remember best. You see, while most kids used bikes and baseball to spend their growing up time, you could usually find me out in the backyard roping my older brother with mom's new clothes hanging line. But time passed like most young boys, and I outwardly gave up the quest to ride with Coop and Ben and Marshall Dillon and tame the lawless West. The trappings of youth gave way to suits, briefcases, wingtip shoes. But as I reached my middle years, I realized I had better choose to be the man of business and commerce that everyone expects, or to go and find my heroes again and gain my self-respect. So things have come full circle for me. I've regained my visions of youth. I traded in my 3-piece suit for Wranglers and cowboy boots. And my heroes have sustained me. And though I left them for a spell, they waited for me and never wavered in the message that they tell. I don't know where the youth of today can find heroes to fill their eyes when drugs and scandal and greed and glitz turn their heroes into lies. I have been so very privileged to meet some of my silver screen heroes and to stand and shake their hand. And they did not disappoint me in their words nor in their stand. And their grip was firm and steady, and their eyes looked straight at you. And now I know that what they gave me was just and fair and true. Woo! Thank you for
Great,
asking.
thank you, Larry.
I enjoy doing that all along. Very true.
We did have one question come in, Larry. When did cowboy poetry become a more recognized, legitimate form of art? I think that's what it was.
Oh, it never wavered. You got to remember, we were talking about the Victorious, but I mean, there's Western verse going back as far back as we can think. Like I said, anytime anybody's moving livestock anywhere, that will move you to poetry. But in the 1860s, 70s, and 80s, that I said it earlier, that was the hip hop of the day. It was not unusual for people to gather, in someone's house or whatever, and read poetry. Whether it be Longfellow or Wordsworth or Longfellow was a heck of a cowboy poet. If you ever read Paul Revere's Ride, that's a heck of a good cowboy poem right there. So it's always been legitimate. But once we got into free verse and that sort of stuff, that's unfortunately became what we would call poetry, and that scared a lot of people. So, I mean, I do school programs. I've done, for 30 years, I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of school programs, middle schools especially, teaching kids how to write rhyming poetry. And they love it, once they get up. And now you see poetry slams and all the rest of that sort of stuff. So, but cowboy poetry's been around for a long time, always been legitimate. When the cowboy poetry that we know, like Elko, that sort of thing, that started in 1985, and that was, but all of a sudden, people said, well, gee, they've got a lot of poets. Yeah, people have been doing poetry for a long, long time. The cowboy didn't really care that there was somebody out there that was interested in it, because most of the poetry, and you'd see what I've written, most of the poetry is pretty personal. And to share that, sometimes you're a little bit reluctant to do that. So I hope that answers your question.
All right, thank you so much. I guess we'll go ahead and sign off now, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. Oh, there is a book, yes. Go ahead, Larry. Do you want to tell everyone about your book?
And the friends, thanks to the Bendix out there in New York, retired fireman from New York. Nice to see you guys. I want to thank you so much for doing this. It's been great, because of all the stuff that's going on. I haven't been able to get out and travel and see the folks. So I thank you, Amanda, and your staff. I really, really enjoyed doing this, and hopefully we can do it again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Larry.